The big story of today is Digital Currency Group and their incompetence and how that incompetence is putting Bitcoin at risk. The main thing I want to talk about spurred from this, okay? This is from Cameron Winklevoss, a co-founder of Gemini Exchange. A lot of you guys have heard of Winklevosses or Winklevi. However you want to define the brothers, they're the ones that, that sued Mark Zuckerberg for stealing the idea of Facebook, but that was years ago. They started Gemini, right? And recently they had issues with Gemini Earn because that was offered by Genesis, and Genesis stopped withdrawals. So it's been about a month or two, and Gemini says they've been working or trying to work with Genesis on opening up withdrawals. But today, they published this, and they're just fed up. They're really fed up. Now, basically, this is an open letter to Barry Silbert, who is the CEO of DCG, who is the parent company of Genesis and the parent company of Grayscale, the two biggest names in the space, among others. Like CoinDesk is also owned by DCG. They are actually absolutely enormous in this space. Okay, but what's said in this letter is not good, not good at all. So to start out, 47 days since Genesis halted withdrawals, 340,000 earned users, right? This is all from Gemini's platform. They called it Gemini Earn. So there were 340,000 users, okay? And there's a sob story, of course, about how, husband and wife, school teacher, policeman, school, everyone from all walks of life, right, lent you their crypto, around 900 million, okay? 900 million, so close to $1 billion. Then it goes on, and it's just more damaging that for the past 6 weeks, they basically have been trying to work and get Barry into a meeting so that they can talk about how to give back that $900 million. And according to Cameron and Gemini, DCG has been pushing him aside, right? Basically making it impossible to get in a room to find a resolution. They've been dragging their feet. And according to Gemini right here, bad faith stall tactics, okay? So that's not sounding good. That's not sounding good. But it gets worse. That's the thing. It gets much worse. So they then go on and blame DCG as the problem, not Genesis, DCG, because DCG, the parent company, was the company that borrowed $1.675 billion. $1.7 billion. DCG borrowed from Genesis. $1.7 billion. And what did they do with that money? Well, according to Cameron, they fueled greedy share buybacks, they participated in liquid venture investments, and kamikaze Grayscale NAV trades that ballooned the fee-generating AUM of your trust, all at the expense of creditors and for your own personal gain. Okay? That's pretty damning. That's pretty damning. And if true, then yes, DCG is definitely incompetent, Barry is incompetent, and this could lead to something much worse for the entire industry, okay? So, and then the letter goes on and says, you know what? A little bit of personal attack. How Barry started his career as a bankruptcy restructuring associate, and how he may be familiar in terms of, protecting a company from bankruptcy from another company, right? Which may be the reason why before he was the CEO of Genesis, and then he kind of distanced himself and made himself the CEO of DCG. So if Genesis goes down, maybe DCG is protected knowing what he knows, right? But Cameron says, regardless, you are the leader. Everyone looks to you for direction, right? So you can't hide yourself behind your companies, right? Or shell companies or whatever, right? So basically, you need to solve this, okay? So this is a pretty damning letter made out in the open, in the public. Kind of shows you how fed up the Winklevosses are of this situation, because obviously Gemini is getting most of the blame, because people that participate in Gemini Earn, well, they're blaming Gemini because they participated. So I'm sure Gemini really wants to solve this if they can. Now, to be fair, I don't know what Gemini can actually do other than just put up their own money, right? Because they say they want to work with Genesis to try to open up withdrawals, but unless they have $900 million to give to Genesis, I don't see how they're going to do anything, right? But it does seem like they want to get into the room and talk it out, and they are being brushed aside, and they are getting very fed up, and now they're releasing this, right? And Barry Silbert has been silent on Twitter for about 6 months. No response, no tweet, nothing at all, right? So not only do they owe $900 million to the customer, but in total, they took out $1.7 billion that they have to patch. So what did they do with the $1.7 billion, you may be wondering? Well, according to this old article on Reuters, $1.2 billion was lost due to Three Arrows Capital. Yay. I didn't mean to say that, but no surprise. Three Arrows Capital brought down so many lending companies, okay, because they were seen as one of the pinnacle VCs of crypto, and so many companies lent them money without asking for collateral back, right? So now, basically, $1.2 billion out of that $1.7 billion lost because Three Arrows Capitals went under. So they also participated in what looks like a giant loan without asking for any collateral. That's what it looks like. Okay, so that's the $1.2 billion. What about the remaining $500 million, right? Well, the Winklevoss has said that it's due to investments and also due to share buybacks, right? And that is true because they did do a huge stock repurchase. And they also did other investment opportunities, right? Which I don't know what they put their money into. But look at this article, right? DCG owes $575 million to Genesis Trading Group, and this is due to share buybacks and due to these other investment opportunities. And what this doesn't cover is that NAV trading that Cameron expressed, the grayscale NAV trades that ballooned the fee-generated AUM of the trust. So this is I think what that's implying is that the assets under management for all the various trusts could be false, or the volume of them could be false because Grayscale themselves or DCG themselves may have participated in a lot of those trades, right? Which, if you think about it, should be illegal. I don't know if that's exactly what it's saying, but that's what it sounds like. Grayscale NAV trades that balloon the fee-generating AUM of your trust, right? So that's kind of what's being thrown out there, right? Throwing out, and when will Barry Silbert come and respond to this? He definitely should. He definitely should not stay in the dark and let this thing escalate more. Now, why does this put Bitcoin at risk, right? You may be wondering. Well, like I said at the beginning, Grayscale is also owned by DCG. Grayscale has a ton of trusts, and we do have 643,000 Bitcoins held in Grayscale's Bitcoin trust. And if you look at their other trusts, like their Ethereum trust and others, there's a substantial amount of crypto in there. So, worst case scenario, absolute worst case scenario, if they can't come up with any kind of funding, any kind of loans from anyone else, because that's probably what they're doing. Probably what Barry is doing is talking to all the banks, talking to all the VCs, talking to everyone to try to borrow $1.7 billion. And probably unsuccessful because this is probably the worst time to be doing so. But if you can't get it, right, that's number one. Number two is he has assets to sell off. So according to an article, like CoinDesk is owned by them, which is last time I saw an estimate, CoinDesk was worth close to $1 billion. I don't know if that's actually true, but there's CoinDesk, Luno, Foundry, and other venture assets that they can sell off to plug that hole. They probably don't want to because, again, all these are worth way less than what they were worth in, during peak of 2021. So you'll be selling it probably at a 50, 60, 70, 80% discount, right? So they probably don't want to do that. But the worst case scenario is if they can't do any of these things, they can't sell any assets, they can't get any loans, then what's speculated is they're going to start selling off some Bitcoin from the Bitcoin Trust. And that is the absolute worst thing that we want, right? We do not want 643,000 Bitcoins being sold in the open market, right? That's worth about $11 billion, which is 3% of the entire supply of Bitcoin. That's out of 21 million. So if you do divide it out of 19 million, it's probably like 4% or higher, right? And even if they sold out, does not mean they need to sell off everything, but that is the absolutely worst case scenario, which is why I titled, you know what, DCG's incompetence and Barry Silbert's confidence in this case could actually put Bitcoin at real risk, but let's hope we don't get there. There are still options. There are definitely still options, right? But this open letter is pretty damning, very damning, right? And it throws a ton of shade and a ton of unanswered questions towards Barry. So will he answer? Let's hope so. Let's hope so. So unfortunately, I start out with this bad news to this new year because it does seem like, Bitcoin's making a little traction. We're starting to maybe turn around a little bit just within the first 2 days, but then we have this. Okay. So it's a developing situation that I will keep you guys apprised of, but right now it is. Oh, you know what? Someone just told me. One of my guys just told me. Barry answered. Let's look at it. Let's see if he answered. Okay, here we go. So Barry answered, DCG did not borrow $1.7 billion from Genesis. DCG has never missed an interest payment to Genesis, is current on all outstanding loans. Next loan is May 2023. DCG delivered to Genesis and your advisor's proposal on December 29 and has not received any response. Interesting. So he's claiming they didn't borrow, and well, I think he's saying that number is wrong because he had to have borrowed something. Otherwise, there would not be an interest payment to Genesis. So there's definitely something, a large amount that he borrowed, but not $1.675 billion. He didn't address the NAV trades. He didn't address the other investment, illiquid investments and stuff like that. And then he's like, well, there's a proposal. But that's not what Cameron wants. Cameron wants to sit in a room with him to talk. But Barry obviously does not want to talk. So it's just a proposal and not a meeting, right? So not sure what that's about. But I guess that's the latest. Again, developing situation. I will let you guys know what comes next. All right. What about other crypto and Bitcoin news today? Well, I did mention about Solana. Solana jumped up about 13%. Just when it seemed like Sol was dead, developers leaving left and right, and there's just so much shade at Solana, all of a sudden, someone, a big group, or some individual pours like $500 million into Solana. Okay. Well, no, he didn't pour $500 million, but they poured a huge amount to cause a $500 million jump in market cap. So Solana jumped up big. Okay. I don't know who put money in there. Maybe because SBF is out at his parents' house still. He found an extra $100 million, $200 million laying around, and he decided to buy Sol with it. I don't know who bought in, but Sol jumped up huge, right? And some people say maybe it's Vitalik's tweet. But Vitalik's tweet came days earlier, and it didn't really do anything. So I don't know. I don't know what caused it. But the fact that it did jump up, to $11 from its low of $9 from a few days ago, that's great. I know a lot of people still hold on Sol. I do too. So I would like to see it recover, but I'm not sure what prompted it to jump up so much, other than some whales buying in. So there's that. As for XRP, or I should say the people's currency, there's more speculation that these Hinman emails are not as damning as Brad and other people think, because if they were, then the SEC would have settled already. But the fact that they didn't settle and they let XRP or Ripple get those emails, right? Even though they fought them, but basically this lawyer thinks that it's just, they were just doing it to drag things on, to cost Ripple more money, right? And basically it's not going to end anything. So that's why this guy thinks that Ripple is not going to settle, because SEC is not going to settle, and this will carry forward, right? And Gary Gensler is basically rolling the dice at this point, because there are a lot of people that want CFTC to take over, to become the crypto watchdog, and not SEC, right? So he knows that his time may be up anyways, so that, he might as well continue. So that's what this one lawyer thinks, owner of Deedon Law Firm. I think it's valid if you think about it logically. I didn't even think about the point that SEC, if they knew that the emails were so damning, that they would have tried to settle, right? Unless they tried to settle and Ripple said no. That could also be an option. But, we'll find the answer in 2023, that's for sure. In 2022, I told people, even at the beginning of 2022, this lawsuit is not going to be settled anytime soon, right? And when did this start? I think it started in 2020, 2021. So it's been years. And I said that at the beginning. And people were like bashing me, like, no, what are you talking about? It's going to be selling in 6 months. I'm like, no, it's not. It's going to take like 2-3 years. Because all the other cases versus the other crypto companies took about 2 to 3 years. So why would this one be faster, right? But I do think it's going to settle. Well, we're going to get some kind of judgment in 2023. So we'll see. We will see what happens. Dogecoin. Dogecoin Foundation announced a new fund for core developers. 5 million Doge, about 360,000 deposited, and this will be rewarding the core developers. Now, what's interesting about this is this was speculated before. Elon brought this up too. So does this mean that Elon is going to be allocating? Or did that 5 million Doge come from Elon already? We don't know, right? But this gives hope that Doge can actually develop more things on top of its chain right now, right? Because right now Doge is purely meme, basically no development whatsoever, none that I know of, nothing significant, maybe a little small code changes for bug fixes or whatever, but like nothing, like no layer 2, no metaverse, no NFTs, no payment rails, payment gateways, no DEX. I don't hear about any of these things. But maybe this will spur some new innovation on top of Dogecoin, and maybe Elon contributes to this as well himself. I don't know. Maybe he will. We will see. What else is going on? As for Bitcoin, a lot of predictions, obviously. You got a lot of bears and bulls. Some are calling a 70% plunge. If DCGs start selling out Bitcoin, that may be the reality. But some are calling for a 1,400% rally as well. And this is the year that it could start, because we're getting closer and closer to the next halving event. And I've been talking a lot about that recently, right? So you got bears and bulls fighting it out, all speculating where Bitcoin will be by the end of this year. And I guess we will see. My personal thoughts are, I think, the first 6 months. We don't see a whole lot of movement. We'll see some recovery, but not a whole lot of movement. But the second half of 2023 is when things get really, really exciting. And there are, of course, still a ton of metrics, on-chain metrics, a ton of indicators and moving averages and a lot of models that show that Bitcoin has found a bottom and is ready to go up. Here's one. Net realized profit and loss. Okay, see all the red points, right? Usually indicating a bottom, and we go upwards. But there's many others like that. Yesterday I covered a 4-year cycle thing, a 4-year cycle model, but here's another one that's like anticipation, panic, stabilization, anticipation, and then end of the bear market, right? Just like the previous times. Look at previous cycles, right? We have seen those times. Plan B's model, he kind of revalued, this. I think this is stock to flow. This is pretty new. He changed up the colors, but yeah, even he says that we're getting ready for the next halving event, right? The halving event is coming, and the halving event is tremendous. And every single year, every single cycle, I should say, as we're leading up to it, you see a Bitcoin price appreciation, right? Not to its previous highs, but you definitely see a good movement. And then afterwards, you see that tremendous upside, right? We're getting closer and closer to that. Closer and closer to that. So, good stuff. Good stuff to look forward to for Bitcoin. Now, as for Ethereum, Vitalik was asked why he's bullish or what he's most bullish on. And he talked about the new EIP 4844, which will basically start Ethereum on a path of scaling, getting roll-ups, okay? Which, and there's so many steps to the roadmap, but it's like the very first one, right? And also, this new EIP 4844 will also allow people to find and unstake Ethereum from the chain. So a lot of people are looking forward to that. But these two things are coming up in this year. I think it's around, I forgot what month. It was like, I remember hearing it was like 4 to 5 months or something like that. So probably around May, June timeframe.